All right, at this point we have the base cluster running, but not operational yet. We need to continue, and one of the most important things that still needs to be done, we need to set up a networking add-on. Networking is not included by default, and that is why we need to do that right now. So the thing is that there is a choice in networking. Kubernetes offers the CNI. CNI is a container network interface, and that works with add-ons to implement networking. Networking is pluggable, and that gives an option for different vendors and different projects to offer their own solution. And in the base setup that you've done with kubeadm, in it you don't get a default solution. You manually need to pick the solution that you want to use for yourself. So different projects exist for offering Kubernetes network support, and that requires support for different types of networking, which include container to container, pod to pod, pod to service, and external to service. We'll discuss networking in much detail in no less than 2 different lessons later in this course. When you are selecting your own plugin, you should be looking for an add-on that supports network policy as well as RBAC, both of which are covered later in this course as well. For now, we are going to use the Weave add-on, which is doing just fine for what we need to do. But there are other plugins as well. These include Flannel. Flannel is a layer 3 IPv4 network between cluster nodes that can use several backend mechanisms such as VXLAN. It's really a plugin that has been developed to be used in cloud environments. Weave is a very common add-on for a CNI-enabled Kubernetes cluster. There's Calico, which is a layer 3 network solution that uses IP encapsulation and is used in Kubernetes, but also in other solutions like OpenStack and OpenShift and Docker and more. And there are the public cloud networking plugins like AWS VPC, which is a network plugin that is common for AWS environments. Now let's have a look at setting up the Weave plugin. So once more, we are back at the kubernetes.io/docs website, where you can find creating a single control plane cluster with kubeadm. All the information about networking is just on this page. You just need to scroll down far enough. Look at this. This is the output of the kubeadm init command. And this is what is showing you what you need to do next. And after that, there's a section on installing a pod network add-on. So in this section, you can see it all comes down to kubectl apply -f addon.yaml. And there you can see the configuration for the different network plugins. So here is the Weave plugin, and the command that you need to run is basically this, kubectl apply. Make sure you copy the entire command, because you can see it doesn't fit on the screen, but the command is longer than what you see here. The easiest way is to just copy it and paste it in your terminal setting. And that's also what I would recommend that you do on the exam. So the next thing that we need to do, we need to set up this network plugin on a control node. The thing is that while setting up the network plugin, you really are going to use the kubectl command. The kubectl command needs to talk to a working Kubernetes cluster, and this kubectl command is going to apply a file, and this file is based on the rest of the command. You can see the results: service account, weavenet created, cluster role, RBAC, cluster role binding, daemon set. Everything is created for weavenet to be operational. Now that we have done that, it makes sense to verify. And in order to verify, you can use kubectl get pods -- all namespaces. Kubernetes pods are what implements the Kubernetes installation. Kubernetes uses namespaces to separate the stuff that you are going to create from the automatically created configuration. And I want to use -- all namespaces to find the information that is in the kube system namespace. The kube system namespace really contains all of the different Kubernetes components that are running, which contain the components that we have seen in in the Kubernetes architecture as discussed previously, like the API server, the etcd, the controller manager, the scheduler control, the core DNS, and now we can see that VMWare is in there as well. So far so good, but kubectl get nodes is not showing any more nodes. You do see one difference though, and that is the difference where control.example.com now has a status of ready. And that means that at this point we have a one node cluster. Having a one node cluster is sad, so we need to join the other nodes. And in order to do so, I created my temporary file, and that contains a command, and that is the kubeadm command that we need to run on the other nodes as well. So what we need is the content of the kube join file, which is a script, but really it's a one command script only. So I am going to copy this. And next I'm going to use SSH to worker 1. And I'm pasting it. So this is automatically going to join the worker node to the cluster. So we can see this node has joined the cluster. Certificate signing request was sent to the API server and a response was received. So all of this is looking quite good. That means that we can repeat this step on the other nodes, and then we should have an operational cluster. So that was all for the 3 different worker nodes in this cluster. So I need to open my student shell again. And kubectl get nodes is showing me what's currently happening. Now what do we see? We see that worker has successfully joined. Worker 2, worker 3 are still in a state of not ready. That should take no longer than a minute. As you can see, worker 3 has joined before worker 2. Worker 2 will definitely be there in a couple of seconds as well. And there we go. We have a working cluster. So let's summarize what we've just done to finish the cluster setup. First, on kubectl control. As an ordinary user, we have used the kubectl apply command to install the Weave plugin. And if you want to run another plugin, that's fine. Just read the documentation, copy and paste the command that is listed for your other plugin. After doing that, you can use kubectl get pods -- all namespaces and look for core DNS and Weave plugin, and that will show you that everything is all right. And if all the pods are giving a ready status, you can start joining the nodes. In order to join the nodes from a root shell on the worker nodes, you can use kubeadm join as instructed at the end of the kubeadm init command. Just scroll up to the last bit of the kubeadm init command if you did not copy the kubeadm join command from there. And remember, this is about the last thing that you need to do with root credentials. Once this is done, you have a fully working Kubernetes cluster, and everything else can be done as an ordinary user. Well, almost everything else. We will see some advanced cluster management tasks later in this course that require root credentials as well.